Hello, welcome back everyone to Spill the Goods. We got a little bit of a different episode today. This is going to be our first live react episode.
I guess that's what it's called, right?
Blind react? I don't know.
Don't know.
What are the kids saying these days? We're going to talk about the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting that happened on the 7th, which I have not seen. I have not read an article about. I didn't go to or watch the recording that Jess did. So she's going to give me the highlights, and we're gonna go from here. So come along with me.
Come along on this adventure down the yellow brick road. As always, it starts off with public comment, and we had a few sort of interesting public comments. One person brought this up, and I feel like he has spoken before, and forgive me, I didn't get his name, but I think he has mentioned this before in wanting to change the terms of our city officials from 2 to 4 years.
Okay.
Doesn't feel like 2 years is enough time to really get things done, which I can't really argue with him there. But it begs the question, right? Like, would this create a more productive system, or would this kind of leave us with some unproductive career-like politicians in the city? I personally am in favor of lengthening it. I think it would be interesting to lengthen it to at least 1 year longer, at least to like 3 years.
Split the difference.
Split the difference, exactly. And give people a little bit more time so that they're not constantly campaigning. You get in there and you have about, I don't know, a solid,
18 months.
18 months before you gotta, start thinking about it again. So,
I think it's an interesting idea to explore. Certainly, I think there's positives and benefits, right? To your point, it gives the board a little bit more time to get things done and gel and work together and understand how that goes. Would that be increasing the mayor's term too?
Yeah, I mean, well, according to this guy, he was suggesting it for everybody. So,
okay.
Alderman, my impression anyways was Alderman, school board, mayor. So it would be essentially everyone who's elected in the city, really. I don't know if that would be the same for commissions too. Those are appointed positions, but I kind of imagine he would have a similar thought process. But yeah. So anyway, so he kind of started everybody off with that.
Okay.
Two people came up after him, and I don't know if they were back to back, but there were at least two people who testified about the tax cap override and not being happy about that. I mean, shocker. But they personally each mentioned a downgrade on the bond rating of the city, which isn't exactly factual. So we did have a downgrade on the bond for the sewer project specifically.
Okay.
So I don't know if folks remember, but a couple of years back, the feds came in, took a look at our sewer system because we were dumping everything into the river, polluting the environment. And they said, sorry, you can't do that. And you have to fix it. So as a city, we've had to foot the bill for some of us to correct it. And with the increase in costs of just everything generally, oil that transports everything that we need, with the increase in the cost of goods, the project itself has sort of ballooned in cost. And so that's what affected the rating of that particular bond for that project. It went down because of the cost increase. And this isn't like a decrease in terms of the city itself.
Okay.
One gentleman came up and asked landlords not to raise the rent. He was concerned about rent, speaking of housing issues. And then our good old buddy, Rich Gerard, showed up. And he was, I thought he was about to talk about the schools because he was starting his rant about a lack of transparency. And I feel like that's been one of the things that he has zoned in on
Yeah,
schools amount. But
sure.
it was actually not. It was actually about the contract with the police department and the unions there. He was, he made the statement that, he's worked with contract before and like this is really not transparent and this isn't how things go, blah, blah, blah. And he had wanted to know more about it ahead of time. Now it's all out there. It was all in last night's agenda. Or not last night, on whatever, in the agenda. It was there. You could look at it. You could see the things that they had scrapped. You could see the things that were changed. So,
did he not look, or did he not feel like that was sufficient enough?
I think he wanted it before it was finalized, was kind of more of the complaint. But you can't do that with contract negotiations, especially with a union. You can't release that until it's finalized. That's kind of like a no-no, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think his complaint is kind of just not valid in some ways.
Okay.
So he was annoyed though about some of the increases in critical incident pay, which I guess is anytime, like they respond to an overdose or something, right? You get a little extra pay because of responding to something like that. It can be traumatic. It can affect you in a myriad of ways where you have to, like learn how to navigate that and seeing that regularly. And so they get a little extra pay for doing that. But his complaint was that it was going to be too much because they get those sorts of calls all the time. And because of the overtime as well, that people are, but this is the thing. We don't have enough police in the city, right? Like we still have, a lot of vacancies in terms of our everyday force. So
yeah,
he was upset about that. And then he was also weirdly upset about the fireworks.
Okay.
He was saying he thought it was like shameful and that it was embarrassing and that our America 250 celebration in Manchester was lacking.
I mean, you could have gone to DC.
He could have gone to DC. I mean, Rich, like you could have just, hopped in your car and drove down to DC, paid $5 a gallon on your way down.
No, you can go get Freedom Fuel.
Oh, that's right. I saw that.
Yeah.
Freedom. So
he probably also could have like planned something bigger.
Oh my God. He could have done something himself.
A special event.
He's a white man though. I mean,
stopping him.
Every event must be planned by somebody else.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, then we have to just like bend the knee. So he doesn't know how.
Okay. So the fireworks were late, right?
They did start late. Yeah.
Was there an incident?
Oh, was there an incident?
I thought I saw that. It was an incident.
I haven't. No, that was not mentioned. So that's tea. That's tea. I don't know. No, he did. He just complained about how short they were. He was like, it's only 14 minutes and some odd seconds of a fireworks show. And that's shameful. And I was like, I don't know. Fireworks are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean,
I heard they took a lot of them to DC. That the DC area was just basically covered in smoke after the fireworks show. And it had like some of the worst air quality in the world. The day after the
show. Really long fireworks show and plenty of room to walk around.
Probably some lung damage afterwards.
Right.
He went 52 seconds over.
Did anybody call him or
no one called him out. No one called him out. No.
Not even the clerk? He didn't say, hey, 3 minutes?
I mean, the clerk said, 30 seconds, and then everybody was fine. They let him go. I know. Ridiculous. So, I think that's going to be my personal peeve.
I'm surprised.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to be my personal peeve from now on. It's like, how often does he let Rich Gerard go over Jay, being him?
Got a gavel. Got a gavel.
You have a gavel. And honestly, like, he probably could have just looked at Rich and been like, hey, Rich, like, wrap it up, my man.
Start playing music.
Yeah, they should really start playing music. Then we had some nominations for various boards. Chrissy Cantor, like, kind of made a stink, and she's just making a stink to make a stink about two of them. One was Dan Goonan, who is an alderman from Ward 2. He's former fire chief in the city.
Yep.
He was being appointed as the aldermanic representative to the Safety Review Board. But Chrissy was opposed because of an old lawsuit that the city had to settle where somebody claimed Dan created an unsafe work environment while he was fire chief.
Okay.
I do not know the details of that.
I was gonna say I'd like to know the details before I like really have an opinion on this. I think.
Yeah,
Settle doesn't always mean you're admitting guilt either.
No.
Sometimes it's just okay, we're done here.
Like we're over it.
I'd like to know more about those details before I have a take on this. I think
so too. I don't claim to know.
Did she share the details?
No, she did not. No, I mean, so she didn't share. She just, the fact that there was that lawsuit was like enough for her to throw it out there as being reason enough. And I agree with you. I think we kind of need to know a little bit more about the details of what that was before we pass any sort of judgment. Regardless, he's just like representing the alderman on this board. So,
Okay.
And then there is this guy, and I had to do a little research to figure out who this person was. So again, I don't know this person. Name is Peter Winslow, to the planning board, because of his work in affordable housing, and she felt it created a conflict.
What does he do with affordable housing? Like, what's the role? Do you know?
So he works for, from what I could find online, Choice Realty, and it looks like they are property managers, realtors who kind of specialize in low income. And
okay.
So I didn't have, so two sides, right? Like, a broken clock is right twice a day. And not that I think that Chrissy is ultimately right in this one, but I get the reason for pause. Because the planning board does
make decisions on what housing is able to be developed. And
yeah, exactly.
If he's going to turn around and profit off of it. But on the other side, too, he's actually doing work in that field and might bring a perspective to the planning board that maybe some other members don't already have because he's dealing with it on a regular basis.
Exactly. And he's also, they're also property managers. I think I said that earlier. But
yeah.
So, I think, overall the perspective is valuable because we're in such a housing crisis in the city.
Yeah.
That having someone like that on the planning board is actually pretty helpful. So, but I get the pause. I get it. So I'll give Chrissy that.
Were they appointed or did it lay over?
No, they were appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, they both passed through.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're on it regardless. But I just thought it was interesting that like Chrissy kind of randomly like interrupted the meeting. Was like, I object to these people, and I need to say why.
Right.
Instead of just being like opposed when the vote went through, like you could have done that. But there was a presentation from the state actually about a four-way stop that the state would like to put in. So this is not like through the city or anything. This is not using city money. This is through the state. I don't know if it was the Department of Transportation or like Public Works or whatever, but folks from the state came down to present a four-way stop at South Willow and Sheffield. So for those of us over here in Ward 8, we're very familiar, I think, with that intersection, kind of headed out towards London. Busier road. If you want to know where like Crystal Lake is, it's kind of that continuation. If you take Crystal Lake over Mammoth, you go up that road, and the next stop is Sheffield and South Willow. So the state did a study, and they got some money to improve safety on the roads, and so they want to put in a four-way stop there. So just stop sign. The city itself took took matters into their own hands as much as they could a few years back because there were so many accidents happening there, to change the other side of Sheffield to a one-way, so that people couldn't necessarily take, I think it was a left. I don't remember exactly, but essentially where people were turning and getting hit, they couldn't do that anymore. So, but that's as like far as the city could really take it, because it turns into Route 28. So I don't know. People were pretty much on board with it, but there was a lot of questioning about like, well, why can't we have a light? I don't know. Like, what do you think about that intersection? Because you probably drive through there too, and I think.
Exactly where it is.
So do you know if you stay on
Probably
South,
was just over there the other day.
if you stay on South Willow,
Yeah.
and you get to that intersection where you can go to that St. Mary's Bake on Perimeter,
Yeah.
or you can go to the left towards Londonderry, you stay to the left
Yeah.
and you go through that way, and there's this little road. Once you pass, there's a small, I think it's like a mechanic, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I drive on that all the time. I think anything would be helpful because if I'm picturing it correctly, the other end of the road, if you were to keep going straight, is kind of like a hill.
Yes.
And so it's hard to see the people coming in the other
100%.
direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't see why it would be a bad thing. I don't know if a light. I mean, I don't know. Would a
'Cause there's
light
a
like
light-
back up too much traffic? Because there's a light
Just before it.
right
pretty
before
much.
that. And then
Yeah.
to people coming over the hill, if they don't know that there's a light. I mean, I guess the same could be said for a stop sign.
Yeah.
As they're coming down the hill, if they don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I would think it wouldn't hurt things.
Yeah.
I don't
and
have strong feelings either way.
yeah. I mean, I think something does need to be done there. I mean, it was pretty interesting, listening to them talk about it because they said it really does actually qualify, in terms of like traffic volume for a light.
Yeah, it's a pretty busy area.
Yeah. And
You
so,
can definitely cut across to the other side of 8 over there.
Mhm.
Really.
but it would cost $500,000 to put in a
For a
light.
light.
Because it would be 4 ways. So you're talking 4 lights.
For a
I
light.
know. So the stop signs though, relatively painless. They said that they would put up some signage because there were some concerns. And this is what I always think about is like the people who kind of after that light we're talking about kind of speed off and head off towards London because there's a while before you hit
It's
another
like
light.
a wide open
Yeah.
road. Yeah.
And so people kind of speed up and take off. Hence the accidents.
Yeah.
They said they would put out like some signage, like leading up to it, like saying that there's a new traffic pattern or whatever. So anyway, the state can do what they want. They did make that kind of clear.
They supersede the.
They were like, we
city.
can do what we want here. But this is
Yeah.
kind of like a courtesy, and if you do have any like strong concerns, like we'll take that into consideration. Blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
they are potentially gonna put in a light, but funds for that won't be available then until like 2028. So anyway,
Okay.
all right. But this is the big discussion. Is this the RAISE project? So the RAISE project for folks who may not be aware came out of a grant that was given to the city in 2021. We had applied for a grant to make some infrastructure changes, the biggest one of which being a bridge that would essentially connect South Commercial Street up to Elm and Gas Street, and through Gas Street actually connecting it to Queen City Ave. So this would all come up and over kind of those railroad tracks behind what's on Elm Street. Like if you're looking at the dunks on Elm Street, there's some railroad tracks back there. So it essentially kind of comes up and around that to connect all of it, to help alleviate some of the traffic on Granite Street in the evenings, alleviate some of the traffic even on Queen City Ave, to try to create another passageway for people who are just kind of going from one side to the other. So huge part of the project. That was a huge part of the project. But along the way, some other things got incorporated, like a pedestrian bridge over Granite Street. So this is at the intersection again with Granite and South Commercial, creating a pedestrian walkway, again, to help alleviate traffic a little bit so that there's not so much stopping for the crosswalk light. Because right now there's a lot of people who work down in the mills, and when there are events like baseball games and stuff, the lights tend to get backed up because of the crosswalk signal. So
Yeah.
this would help alleviate that, along with some additional rail trail improvements and paving to create an alternative pathway for people who want to ride their bikes.
Yep.
And that would actually connect South Willow Street all the way to Elm, with plans in the future in 2029 connecting it all the way across the west side to the Piscataqua Rail Trail.
Okay.
So would really create a really interesting connection of
How to get through the city?
kind of
or-
intermodality
Yeah.
within the city. So really kind of exciting project. It also changes that intersection at Queen City Ave and South Willow. Instead of having all those lights and having that funky left turn where then the people on the right of you go straight.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I remember the very first time I was in that left turn lane and I saw a car going straight at the same time. I had a mini heart attack because I was like, oh my God, am I not supposed to be going, it took forever for me to get used to that. They'd be like, okay, no, they're not going to hit me, hopefully. But changing that intersection to be more pedestrian friendly as well. So they're going to create sort of a peanut. So it doesn't actually, in my head, I keep thinking of a figure eight, but it's a peanut. So it's just the outside. Within the middle is just like grass, right? And it's kind of a funky, double roundabout almost. But what it does is it frees up some space so that there can be continuous sidewalk on either side.
Okay.
And actual crosswalks at that intersection.
It's a big intersection.
It is a big intersection, and the lights are not really working well in terms of, I think in particular for pedestrians and stuff, but
Yeah.
just even keeping up with the flow of traffic, it's a lot of stop and go. And so this would be a continuous thing. There would be no lights. So those are the items that are being funded by this or that are included in the raise project.
Okay.
How we were going to pay for that was through this TIF district, which is basically saying that one part of town's taxes are going to go towards this project. And unfortunately, the TIF district amount has been reduced by almost more than half. And so DPW cannot put the project out to bid, according to USDOT, who's helping to fund the majority of this project. And if you watch the meeting, they refer to USDOT as OST, which is the specific department within DOT. I had to look it up, so I was a little confused. Anyway, so Owen, who is the head of DPW, requested approval to utilize the reduced TIF district value amount and to modify the project. And basically, the bridge for the cars, which was kind of probably the main thing really of this project, it's also the most expensive element now. Because remember, when this project first went out and was talked about, it was in 2021.
And
all right,
everything has gotten more expensive in the
So
last year.
astronomically more expensive,
Yeah.
especially in terms of construction and with some of these, you were talking about raw materials, and raw materials in particular, I feel like are really expensive. So unfortunately, that element alone is $36 million, which would take up the entirety of the grant, because we got a grant for $25 million and the city was putting in $5 million itself. So this kind of started the discussion about, well, what do we do now, right? Do we try to make up the difference in that TIF value through some other funding through the city, which we just don't have as a city because of our revenue issues. So, unfortunately, that's not possible. And the city has already spent $5.5 million of the grant that was given. And so when you spend part of a grant, especially a federal grant, if you do not utilize the grant, if something happens, you have to pay back what you've already spent out of it. So,
Ugh.
yeah. So if we kind of abandon it, then we're out 5.5 million because we used the grant money for that. So it's definitely an issue that needed a little bit of thought, and there was some good discussion about what to do exactly. The money would need to be found within the next 3 months, essentially, to put the project out to bid according to the original timelines that the DOT and the feds had accepted. And to also just keep construction on track, really, because they're looking to get the bid sometime in the winter to start construction, I think, in the spring. And it is, do you cancel the project? Do you modify the project? Do you try to find the funds? And those were kind of the discussion last night. So June Trisciani, though, I just want to give her a little bit of a shout out because, she was talking about it and saying, that, the bridge is disappointing, but there's other elements of this that are still valuable, especially that Peanut intersection and the pedestrian footbridge over Granite. So she's been in touch. She kind of offered some reframing and then, said that she's been in touch with our federal delegation, trying to ensure that a modified plan would be approved by DOT, because this is the other thing about federal contracts. If you have to make a change, you then have to send your changes back to the feds to have them reapproved. And that can be lengthy. And as somebody who interacts with the federal government on a fairly regular basis in my job, it can take a long time.
I feel like they're not operating at maximum efficiency these days either.
No.
I mean, we were just talking about this raise fund, which was under Biden, has now been changed under Trump to something else, and they're funneling funds from projects that they consider DEI. I don't know how sidewalks are DEI, but that's their whole initiative.
Yes.
So
yes,
I'm sure this is not a quick review and reapproval given the timing now.
Oh, I'm sure. And just the actual manpower that's available at the federal level now is so much smaller than what it used to be.
Dodged them all, right?
They did. They truly did. And it's one thing to go through and say, okay, these positions may be, duplicative of each other. Maybe we have too many doing this thing, but they have seriously eliminated a lot of people. I mean, I know my interactions with the feds have gone from, being having 15 to 20 contacts to down to almost 4 or 5.
Wow.
So it is insane. I don't know what it's like at DOT at federal level, but I imagine it's similar.
Yeah.
So anyway, so shout out to June though for kind of being ahead of the game a little bit, trying to get in touch with the federal delegation, making sure that they can get in touch with folks at the feds a little bit more easily than we can here at the local level, and making sure that a modified plan could be approved, and then also checking to see if there's extra funding.
Yeah.
You never know if you don't ask.
Yeah.
So just ask. And if it's available, if there's another grant coming out, apply for it, right? But this is why who we elect locally matters, because June has, at least in this instance, gone above and beyond to try and keep up and keep this plan intact as much as possible anyway. So we'll see what will come out of that advocacy. But ultimately, the vote was taken. What was suggested was, all right, we modify the plan. We send it back to DOT for approval. If they approve it, then we will go ahead and pull and create the TIF district. If they don't approve, then obviously we're not going to create that TIF district, and we're out 5.5 million because we don't have any other really viable option to keep this project moving forward.
Because we have a revenue problem.
Because we have a revenue
Every
problem.
city and state.
So, you know, I personally am kind of disappointed about that bridge in particular, because that's the thing that is going to be taken out of the plan. The modified plan is going to include everything else except for the bridge, the vehicle bridge connecting South Commercial, because it just honestly would have been really nice to have that second route. I drive down Queen City Ave pretty regularly, getting around town and stuff, and places that I go to. And it would have just been nice, right? Like if I'm trying to, whether I'm trying to get to like Sand or I'm trying to like go,
I mean, like 5 o'clock
visit a friend,
on that
but like,
road from like 4 to like
yeah,
5:30.
it's
6
so
o'clock,
backed
it's just
up.
a parking lot.
It
basically,
is.
So.
And like if I could turn off on gas and go down South Commercial and kind of, you know, get spit out right at Granite South Commercial and take a left there and go up to the west side if that's what I'm trying to do, or just go straight and continue down home if that's what I'm trying to do, would be nice.
That would have been great.
You know, and think about all the people who work too at like River's Edge, which is right there. I mean, where I don't know where they're all trying to get to, whether it's the highway or back home or whatever. Again, just it's helpful to have options, especially in a city, for people to drive down. So I don't think Dan O'Neill was really wrong when he said that, you know, the bridge itself was really a huge draw for the people in Manchester in this project. But to end on a positive note, okay, the Peanut at Southwell and Queen City Ave will be a huge improvement. It is really a confusing intersection if you don't live here and don't know, right?
What lane do you go in?
What lane are you supposed to be in? And if I'm turning left and then I see these other cars going, like, is that okay? Should I be going?
Even in the straight lanes, depending on where you have to go immediately after that intersection, you could be in the wrong lane.
You really could be.
Either way. And it's just,
It is. And, you know, the safety improvements too. Sorry, I didn't mean to play footsie with you there for a second. But the safety improvements will be really nice too in terms of like pedestrians, because I do see people walking up and down that road and just kind of like playing Frogger with traffic some days. I'm like, Jesus Christ, please don't get hit. So that'll be nice. Keep it moving more continuously, so kind of eliminating that stop and go. And then the same thing about the pedestrian bridge over on Granite. I mean, that will be nice. We don't go down there, down to like the stadium. We don't go to baseball games a whole lot or anything. But I did used to work in the mill right there, and that was a pain in the butt because I'd have to cross that road every day to get in my car. And
we just went to a banana ball when they were here.
Oh, just so good?
It was so fun. It was so fun. I would go if I hope they come back. It was truly such a fun thing. And the Fisher Cats they were such a fun host stadium. It's so small. There were no bad seats. And
it's a super nice little stadium.
It was so fun. I loved it.
It
made me like, yes, Manchester. I can have my
love it.
Here.
Yay.
Great. I hope we can go.
And
shout out to my sister for getting the lottery and getting us tickets.
Yeah, go her.
Attempt that. It was really fun. But walking to the stadium, walked across. I took 3 10-year-old boys, and we had to cross Granite Street. And I mean, about taking your life in your hands. Like.
Seriously. Seriously.
Anything helpful there would be great.
I know. So, I mean, and then the rail trail will just be nice. I mean, I like taking my kids walking on the rail trail and the paved sections in particular because we have the stroller, but you know, it'll be nice to have that. And for everybody who rides the bike, right, it's just a nice option to have somewhere safe, because America's not really set up in a way to be friendly to like
not a walkable
regular
country
like bicyclist sort of place. So but the rail trail provides a nice connection all throughout the city so that those folks can kind of safely get to where they're trying to go. So hopefully the feds approve the modified plans and we can proceed with all those nice things.
That'll be one to keep an eye on for sure. How that
absolutely. So I mean, that's in a nutshell. That's what happened. That's your rundown.
What an awful lot of things.
I know. I know. And you know, you start listening, and sometimes you're like, oh, like I feels like nothing's like really happening. You know, like people aren't getting super heated, but a lot did really happen here in this discussion in terms of like what to do and what they were going to do in terms of the future of the city and like how are we all going to move physically about through the city, and what improvements are we going to be able to make. So
for sure.
definitely, like we say, always going to be paying attention and listening.
Well, thanks for that thorough update. I learned some things.
Yeah, happy to do it. And, we will see you all next time. Remember to stay tuned.